He's more than double my age and is disgusting. I wouldn't marry him in a million years. No, I won't do it. They tried to grab me and force me towards their car, but I fought back. As they tried to grab me, I punch and kick and give both of them black eyes for their trouble and then make my escape. Over the next couple weeks, they tried a few more times, but I was able to fight them off each time. Eventually, they stopped trying, and I began to feel safer. Hey there, my name is Sylvia, and it's amazing that I've turned out as good as I did. Here, let me tell you what I mean, and you will understand. Let me start that by saying that my parents are terrible people. They own a grocery store and have always put making money over literally everything else. All they ever cared about was how to make their bank account grow. They were so obsessed that sometimes they would even do some very awful things like change the expiration dates on some of the meat, eggs, or milk. They did it so much that I was always amazed that people didn't get sick. Hey Dad, did you change the expiration date on the chicken wings?
Yeah, so what if I did? Those dates are just suggestions anyways.
They aren't, Dad. They're on there for a very good reason. If someone buys that chicken and gets sick, then they can sue you. It's against the law.
Well, so long as no one snitches on me, then I should be fine. Are you planning on making trouble for this family?
Of course, I didn't dare even think about calling the authorities on my parents. I probably should have to be honest, but I knew that if I did that, they would have beaten me to a pulp. After all, it wouldn't have been the first time that they got angry enough to abuse me. They were so cheap that from the age of 12, they had me working at the store. There was even a few times where I got sick and I was forced to still work. I had no time for taking days off. I still had to go to school and work shifts at the store. I felt so incredibly powerless. Even though I was so young, they demanded that I work just as many hours as them, and they always refused to pay me for the time I worked as well. It was so bad that many weeks I would work over 40 hours, and that was on top of going to school as well. With that kind of work schedule, I pretty much had no social life outside of my one and only friend David. He was always kind and patient with me, and really understood that my parents were awful people. More than once, he begged me to call the police and report my parents for abusing me, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. After all, they were my parents, and I didn't want them to get in trouble. Plus, I just assumed that once I turned 18, that I would just leave home and head off to school. After that, I would finally be able to get a job and move out into the world on my own. David tried so many times to get me to realize that my parents had no such plan for me. Sadly, I didn't realize that they did have a plan for me, but rather than it resulting in a wonderful and happy life. Instead, they just viewed me like one of the items that they stocked their store with. I was nothing more than merchandise to them. One day when I was 17, I came home after school and the store was pretty empty except for one man. He was in his late 40s and he was wearing clothes that were very soiled and covered in mysterious stains. Not knowing where my parents were, I sat behind the cashiers to both keep an eye on the guy, but to also ring him out when he was done shopping. However, he was not picking up any items. Instead, he just kept looking at me, and it made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Finally, after about 15 minutes of him staring at me, he finally came over to the checkout counter.
Hello there, Sylvia.
Hello? How do you know my name?
Didn't your parents tell you?
What were they supposed to tell me? Who are you?
I'm Katso, and your parents promised me that you would marry me.
Okay, listen, buddy. My parents are pretty crappy people, but they wouldn't just sell me off to someone like you.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Your parents owed my parents a lot of money, and so they made a deal. I would get you as my wife, and the debt would be wiped clean.
What debt? And you do realize that I'm only 17, right? I'm not old enough to get married.
You are if your parents agree to it, and I'm sure a girl as pretty as you knows all about men. I just want you to know that I plan to start trying to have kids right away. I hope that you understand, seeing how pretty you are. I know I'm going to enjoy being your husband.
I was shocked. So much so that I didn't move until he came behind the counter and started groping me. He started touching me inappropriately, and before I knew what I was doing, I grabbed a stapler behind the counter and hit him over the head with it. And then while he was stunned, I kicked him as hard as I could between the legs. While he was doubled over in pain, I ran out of the grocery store. I had no idea where else to go, and so I went straight over to David's house and told him about the latest thing my parents had done.
Oh, Sylvia, that is insane. There is no way you can go home. Please, you can stay here.
I was so incredibly grateful to David and his family. They really helped me out. David's family owned several restaurants around town and had a large mansion and even had a pool house, which is where they had me stay. It wasn't that special, but it was great having the place all to myself. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe and able to finally relax. The next day, my parents began blowing up my phone. I refused to answer my phone and just let their calls go to voicemail. The messages they left were very cruel and rather insistent. Luckily for me, though, David's parents refused to let them onto the property, and so while in the pool house, I was untouchable. However, when I would leave to go to school, they tried their best to talk to me and get me listen to them.
Sylvia, how dare you make us look bad? You are our daughter, and you will do as we tell you.
Yes, I'm your daughter, but you don't own me. You can't just sell me off to pay off your debts. And how did you end up owing that pervert's family money anyways? I thought you two were making good money from the store.
We want to expand and open up new stores, and so we borrowed money from their family, and all it cost us was your worthless hand in marriage. We always knew we would sell you off, but we had never dreamed we would get so much for you. Now, if you know what is good for you, then you will do as you are told and marry him.
He's more than double my age and is disgusting. I wouldn't marry him in a million years. No, I won't do it. They tried to grab me and force me towards their car, but I fought back. As they tried to grab me, I punch and kick and give both of them black eyes for their trouble and then make my escape. Over the next couple weeks, they tried a few more times, but I was able to fight them off each time. Eventually, they stopped trying, and I began to feel safer. Meanwhile, I began to spend more time with David since I didn't really want to go outside very often. I was safe on his property, and every time I left, my parents would harass me. However, that time together was pretty amazing. We had known each other for years, but the time together helped us get to know each other even better. I actually began to develop feelings for him, and I was surprised when he began to as well. We started having date nights where we would watch movies and go for walks. Eventually, my parents stopped coming around, and I was able to get myself a job and start saving up for college, although David's family promised to help, but I wanted to contribute as much as possible. When the time came, David and I went off to college, and by the time we graduated, we were not only ready to start our lives, but we were also madly in love and engaged as well. I was dreading heading back home since I assumed that my parents would automatically begin to harass me, but they didn't. I then found out that after I had left that my parents ended up losing their store. In order to pay back some of their debt, they were forced to liquidate their belongings, however it wasn't remotely enough, and they were forced to declare bankruptcy and ended up living on the street. Part of me felt guilty for them, but considering what they expected me to do, I couldn't feel too guilty. They made their bed, and now they had to lie in it. Seeing their store all boarded up made me have a strange sense of justice, but also sympathy. My parents were terrible people, but the store had originally been built by my grandparents, and they had unfortunately passed it over to my parents. David and I decided that we should use some of his family's money to buy the store and reopen it. A few days after we reopened, my parents showed up and begged David and me to let them own the store with us. Neither of us wanted anything to do with them, and when we refused,
You both will regret this, Sylvia. You have brought nothing but pain in our lives.
then my dad and mom attacked us with knives. Luckily, we managed to escape and later reported the incident to the police and filed a restraining order against them. We never saw them again. We later heard that my parents were so desperate that they started selling illegal items, like drugs, to make some cash. They were busted while going to deliver to a client and are now serving time in jail. And so years later, David and I are married and we've had 2 children. The store is doing better than ever since we make it a priority to make people happy and not just chase after profits. It's doing so well, in fact, that we are planning on opening more stores as well, but I can assure you that we have no intentions of selling off our children in order to do so. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I hate my family. They have always been the worst people in the world. It wasn't a surprise to me that my parents adored Thomas. Thomas was intelligent in school and resembled our dad, so they loved him immensely. They didn't hide it, they flaunted it. While he was the golden child, basking in their attention, I was the afterthought. I mean, he was given everything. When it came to paying for his college, my parents had no problems finding the money. They paid his entire way, and even when he flunked out, they still helped and supported him. However, when I asked for a few dollars to help cover the cost of my trade school, suddenly there was no more money. And yet, I stayed. I mean, I didn't have much of a choice. I needed somewhere to live that was close to my campus, and the apartment above my parents' garage was perfect. My parents rented it to me. The rent was cheap, and I figured that I could live there while I went to school, and then I would move on, or so I thought at the time. The day it all started to unravel was when I overheard my mom on the phone.
Of course, sweetheart. We'll send the money over this afternoon. Don't stress, darling. You'll figure it out. We love you very much, and of course we'll help you out.
I leaned against the kitchen counter, sipping coffee. When she hung up, I asked casually, "Helping Thomas out again?"
It's none of your business. By the way, who said you could drink our coffee? Also, your rent is due today.
Since when is it due halfway through the month? I've always given it to you guys at the end. And yeah, maybe it isn't my business, but I just don't get why you always help out Thomas, but can never do the same for me. She turned her back to me, refusing to make eye contact.
Thomas is going through a hard time. You wouldn't understand. Besides, it's not your place to question how we manage our money. The rent is due when I say it is, so either have the money in my hand by the end of the day, or start looking for somewhere else to stay.
It wasn't my place to ever say anything. That was always her line. But considering how I was still in school and was paying her the rent she demanded from me on time, I felt incredibly annoyed. Here I was actually being responsible, but she and my dad were treating me like I was the screw-up. Meanwhile, Thomas was no doubt just squandering his money. It wouldn't be the first time that he spent his entire paycheck on clothes or other things he didn't need, and then had to beg our parents for money to cover his rent. He could demand anything, and he got everything. When I first moved into the garage apartment my parents rented to me, I thought it might be a good stepping stone. But stepping on the wrong floorboard was enough to send it cracking under my weight. The plumbing was a joke. The hot water barely worked, and the wiring sparked if I used more than 2 appliances at once. Dad, the insulation in the walls is basically non-existent. I'm freezing up there.
Then get a space heater.
A space heater? You know how bad the wiring is. It could start a fire. Dad, that place is a death trap. Could you please call an electrician? One of these days, that wiring is going to cause a fire.
Don't be dramatic, Sarah. If you don't like it, you can move out.
And if I do, then who is going to rent that place, huh? No one else with half a brain would rent it.
If you were half as intelligent as your brother, you would understand the massive favor we are giving you for letting you stay there. Oh, and by the way, I ran the numbers, and I need to increase your rent to $1,600 a month to cover expenses. Be sure to have that money in my hand in the next few days, or else you'll be living on the street.
I couldn't move out. I was still paying off student loans, and every other option in the area was worse or more expensive. Even with the increase, it was still cheaper. So I stayed, patching things up with duct tape and a prayer. I tried to fix things as best I could, but I wasn't a professional. It was a month later when I accidentally opened a bank statement that wasn't mine. It was addressed to my parents. The line item caught my attention immediately. Transfer to Thomas, $1,600. It seemed strange that the very same amount of money that I gave them for rent suddenly went to my brother on the same day. Sneakily, I logged onto their bank account. I knew their passwords and such because my father was notoriously always using 1234 as his go-to password for everything. I was all there in black and white. Every time I made a payment towards my rent to them, they would then send the exact same amount to Thomas. It felt too obvious to be a coincidence. My chest tightened. I confronted them the same evening. "You're giving my rent money to Thomas, aren't you?"
Thomas needs it more than you do. He's struggling. Plus, he will pay us back. He has a lot of potential.
"I'm struggling. You've been gouging me for rent so that he can live comfortably while I'm stuck in a fire hazard?"
Thomas has real potential. He just needs support. And as his sister, I'm shocked that you don't offer to help him right now.
And I don't? Mom, Dad, I'm in school right now, and once I graduate, I'll make a comfortable living. Why can't you see it for what it is? Thomas is the screw-up.
How dare you? He's your brother. How can you be so callous?
Oh, I don't know why. Maybe because you two have always treated him like the favorite. But stop trying to dodge the question. Are you giving my rent money to him?
Not that it's any business of yours, but yeah, we are. Also, I need to let you know that I was wrong about the rent being $1,600. You need to pay us $2,000. So whenever you have the money, let us know.
Are you kidding me? You can't raise it that much like that. And there is no way I'm giving you more money for that place. It's practically falling apart. Forget it. I'm moving out.
Fine, get lost.
Moving out was easier than I thought. My friend Jake had been looking for a roommate, and his 2-bedroom apartment was spacious, clean, and, get this, only $800 a month, and that was split between the two of us. I saved so much money in those first few months that I started dreaming about buying a house. And 6 months later, I did. The house wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The mortgage was only $700 a month, less than half of what my parents had been charging me. When I sent them the housewarming invitation, Mom texted back, "We'll try to stop by." They didn't. Things started spiraling for them not long after I left. Without my rent money, they couldn't afford to keep sending Thomas his monthly handouts, as my parents were living on their pension. He lost his apartment and ended up moving into the garage apartment, my old place. As for me, after living with Jake for a while, he and I started a website where we built websites for clients as a side hustle. Before long, the website gained traction, and we started earning thousands of dollars a month while still in school. Thanks to this success, I was able to move out, get a nice 2-bedroom apartment, and even buy a fancy car. Life became much more comfortable. One day while driving beside my parents' house, I saw Thomas smoking on the rickety balcony. That annoyed me. I'd told my parents a dozen times about how unsafe the apartment was, and now they were letting him smoke up there? It felt like a disaster waiting to happen. I was right. It was a Tuesday night when the call came.
Glenn, there's been an accident.
What kind of accident?
It was Thomas. He fell asleep with a lit cigarette, and well, the apartment caught fire.
Are you serious? If you'd fixed the place up like I told you, it probably wouldn't have happened.
We didn't have the money.
Maybe if you hadn't been bankrolling Thomas, you would've. It was so infuriating, but it really didn't surprise me. However, that was only the tip of the iceberg. Apparently, the fire was so bad that it spread to the rest of the house, and not only did the garage and the apartment burn down, but the whole house did as well. Not only was Thomas homeless, but so were my parents. Suddenly, they were asking if they could come and stay with me. It was such a slap in the face, but it was also a golden opportunity to turn the tables on them. I'll let you stay with me under one condition. You sign a 5-year lease. You'll pay me $3,500 a month, and if you miss a single payment, I'll sue for the entire remaining balance of the contract so that no matter what, I'll get my money.
That's ridiculous.
No more ridiculous than what you did to me. Dad tried to negotiate, but I held firm. They refused to my conditions and ended up moving into a rundown motel. Thomas complained constantly about the cockroaches and bed bugs. He constantly messaged me, begging to let just him move in. To take pity on my only brother, but there was no chance of that happening. I should have known Thomas wouldn't let it go. He'd always been vindictive. One night, my security system alerted me to motion outside. The cameras showed Thomas creeping toward my garage with a gas can and matches. I called the fire department and police immediately. By the time he set the fire, the authorities were already en route. The damage was minimal, thanks to their quick response. But Thomas wasn't so lucky. When the cops arrived, he tried to run. They tased him, and he went down hard. I suppose I could have tried to intervene and get them to go easy on him, but I would be lying if I said that seeing the police handle him roughly and throw him into the back of their squad car didn't bring a smile to my face. Thomas ended up getting 5 years in prison for arson and attempted property damage. My parents were of course upset, but I had already decided that I was going to be cutting them out of my life. I was done playing second fiddle to Thomas for them, and I wanted nothing to do with them anymore. At Thomas's trial, though, when I heard the sentence, I couldn't help but laugh. It was just so hilarious. My friend Jake was there and he asked me what was so funny, to which I told him. Thomas always wanted to live rent-free. Looks like he got his wish. In prison, he won't have to pay rent. And the best part? He's not my problem anymore. When Thomas was sentenced and sent to prison, my parents broke down in tears in court. I looked at them and just smiled. I later heard that, since money was tight, they ended up working at a fast food restaurant as servers to survive. As for me, though, things took a different turn. Jake later proposed that my life story was interesting enough to write a book about, which I eventually did. It became a bestseller titled, "My Parents Kicked Me Out for Not Paying Rent." Many people loved it and it gained a lot of attention. I even managed to send some copies to my parents. When they read it, they became furious. Apparently, everyone despised them after learning the truth, and they ended up getting fired from their jobs when their boss learnt of it too. They started calling and threatening me, but I blocked them before they could say much. Thanks for watching.
10. He's a good worker when he puts his mind to it.
5,000. Not a penny more. 7. We want 7,000. 6. Final offer.
I stood there in shock as they haggled over me like I was livestock. My parents were selling me. That's what had happened to my brothers and sisters. They were selling us off, one by one, when they needed money. I felt sick to my stomach as Mr. Brenner counted out the cash and handed it to my father. My parents didn't even say goodbye. They just took the money, gave me a final warning look, and walked out the door. Life with the Brenners was worse than I could have imagined. I was expected to work from 7 a.m. until well past midnight, cleaning their massive house, tending their garden, and doing whatever menial tasks they could think of. I slept on a thin mattress in a utility closet off the kitchen. Food was provided only if I finished all my chores to their satisfaction, which was rare. I'll never forget the day I accidentally broke a vase while dusting. Mrs. Brenner's face twisted with rage.
You clumsy, worthless creature. Do you know how much that cost?
My name is Wendell, and I grew up in what I can only describe as a living nightmare. Most kids have childhood memories of birthday parties, family vacations, and warm holiday gatherings. Mine are filled with hunger, fear, and the gradual disappearance of my siblings one by one. My parents, Elaine and Victor, were monsters disguised as human beings. There were 8 of us children originally, 4 boys and 4 girls, crammed into a small 3-bedroom house on the outskirts of town. Food was always scarce in our home, not because my parents couldn't afford it, but because they simply didn't care if we ate. Most days, we survived on whatever scraps we could find or steal. Clothes were handed down until they were nothing but rags. Meanwhile, my parents never seemed to miss a meal or an opportunity to indulge themselves. I still remember the first time I noticed something was wrong. I was 9 years old when my oldest sister, Margaret, who was 13, suddenly wasn't there anymore. No goodbye, no explanation. She was just gone. Where's Margaret? She didn't come down for breakfast. She's gone to live with relatives. Don't ask stupid questions. I was just wondering where she was. When will she come home? She moved away permanently. She was causing too much trouble for us, and so we sent her far away. Let that be a warning to you. If you cause us too much trouble, the same will happen to you, and trust me, you don't want to live where she is. His words scared me half to death. I knew we didn't have any relatives that would take just one of us. Something felt terribly wrong, but I was too young to understand what had happened. What I did notice was that suddenly my parents had new clothes, a new television, and were eating steak dinners, while the rest of us fought over bowls of watery oatmeal. About 6 months later, the money seemed to run out. The nice things stopped appearing, and my parents grew even meaner. Then my brother Thomas, who was 12, disappeared. Once again, my parents suddenly had money. This time they bought a used car. I was starting to piece things together, though I wouldn't believe what my mind was suggesting. When my sister Rebecca vanished a few months later, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Where are they really going? Margaret, Thomas, and now Rebecca? What are you doing with them?
You ungrateful little brat! How dare you question us?
I'm right to question you. Where are my siblings? What are you doing with them? Looks like you want to make trouble. Well, you will regret it. What followed was the worst beating I'd ever received. Victor used his belt until I could barely stand, while Elaine screamed that I should be grateful they kept me around at all. I never asked about my siblings again, at least not to their faces. The pattern continued for another year. Another sibling would disappear, and suddenly there would be money. I was 10 when my turn finally came. My parents told me I was going to visit some friends of theirs. We drove across town to a large house owned by a couple named the Brenners. They looked wealthy, but there was something cold and calculating in the way they looked at me.
He's skinny, but he looks strong enough. How old did you say he was?
10. He's a good worker when he puts his mind to it.
5,000. Not a penny more. 7. We want 7,000. 6. Final offer.
I stood there in shock as they haggled over me like I was livestock. My parents were selling me. That's what had happened to my brothers and sisters. They were selling us off, one by one, when they needed money. I felt sick to my stomach as Mr. Brenner counted out the cash and handed it to my father. My parents didn't even say goodbye. They just took the money, gave me a final warning look, and walked out the door. Life with the Brenners was worse than I could have imagined. I was expected to work from 7 a.m. until well past midnight, cleaning their massive house, tending their garden, and doing whatever menial tasks they could think of. I slept on a thin mattress in a utility closet off the kitchen. Food was provided only if I finished all my chores to their satisfaction, which was rare. I'll never forget the day I accidentally broke a vase while dusting. Mrs. Brenner's face twisted with rage.
You clumsy, worthless creature. Do you know how much that cost?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Brenner. It was an accident.
An accident? I'll show you what happens when you have accidents in my house.
She locked me in the basement for 3 days with no food and only a trickle of water from a rusty sink. When Mr. Brenner finally let me out, I was too weak to stand. Another time, I was caught taking an apple from the kitchen because I hadn't been given anything to eat for 2 days. Mr. Brenner caught me and dragged me outside into the cold winter night. You steal from us after all we've done for you? Sleep outside with the dog tonight. Maybe that will teach you some gratitude. I spent the night huddled against their German shepherd in his doghouse. The irony wasn't lost on me that the dog was treated better than I was. After 6 months with the Brenners, I knew I had to escape, or I would die there. One night, while they were hosting a dinner party, I slipped out through the kitchen door. I ran as fast as my legs would carry me, not knowing where I was going except away from that house. I ended up at a police station, shivering and terrified. To my relief, the officers believed my story. They gave me food, clean clothes, and called in social services. The Brenners were arrested that same night. Of course, they refused to be the only ones arrested, and they gave up the names of my parents as they were the ones that had sold me to them to begin with. When the police went looking for my parents, they discovered the house was empty. They had vanished, likely with the money from selling their last child. I was placed with a foster family, the Westfields, who were everything my birth parents weren't. They were kind, patient, and genuinely cared about my well-being. With their support, I tried to find my siblings, but it was like they had vanished into thin air. I imagined them scattered across the country, enduring who knows what horrors. The Westfields helped me heal, both physically and emotionally. They encouraged me to focus on school, and for the first time in my life, I excelled at something. I graduated high school with honors and received a scholarship to college, where I studied criminal justice. After college, I applied to the FBI Academy. When asked why I wanted to join, I was honest about my past. I told them I wanted to be part of the human trafficking division because I knew firsthand what it was like to be treated as a commodity rather than a human being. 15 years into my FBI career, I'd helped dismantle dozens of trafficking rings and rescued hundreds of victims. I'd built a reputation as an agent who would stop at nothing to save those who couldn't save themselves. Then came the case that would change everything. There were rumors circulating about an older couple operating a trafficking network specializing in children. They moved frequently, never staying in one place long enough to draw attention. But they'd slipped up recently. A child had escaped and provided enough details for us to start building a case. I dove into the investigation, working night and day to track down these monsters. As I pieced together their pattern, something felt eerily familiar. The descriptions, the methods, the cold calculation of it all. When I finally obtained a grainy security camera image of the couple, my blood ran cold. Older, grayer, but unmistakable. Elaine and Victor, my birth parents. Agent, are you sure you should be on this case, given your personal connection? With all due respect, sir, I'm the best person for this job. I know how they think. I know what they're capable of, and I'll make sure they face justice. When we finally got the green light for the raid, I insisted on leading the entry team. We surrounded the isolated farmhouse just before dawn. With our tactical gear on and weapons ready, we moved in. What I saw inside that house will haunt me until the day I die. Children in cages, so thin that their ribs protruded through their skin. The smell of unwashed bodies and despair permeated the air. And there, in the midst of this horror, stood my parents. They hadn't even tried to run. Well, look who it is. Our little Wendell all grown up. FBI, get on the ground now.
You think you can come in here and tell us what to do? You were always the weakest of the bunch. Too soft, too many questions.
Put the gun down, boy. You don't have the stomach for this. In that moment, as they sneered at me with the same contempt they'd always shown, something inside me snapped. When they both reached for weapons hidden in their clothes, my training took over. I fired multiple shots, hitting both of them several times. Victor managed to get off one shot that grazed my arm before he fell. As I stood over their bodies, I felt nothing but relief that they could never hurt another child. The team secured the house and began the process of rescuing the 12 children trapped inside. Some had been there for years. None of them were my siblings. The raid made national news. FBI agent brings down child trafficking ring run by his own birth parents was too sensational a headline to ignore. I gave one interview, hoping to raise awareness about trafficking and the signs to watch for. I never expected what happened next. 3 weeks after the story aired, I received a call from a woman claiming to be Margaret, my oldest sister, who had disappeared 16 years earlier.
Wendell? Is it really you? I saw you on the news. I couldn't believe it.
Margaret? How? Where are you?
Seattle. I've been here since I escaped the people our parents sold me to. I've been trying to find all of us for years.
Over the next month, I received calls from Thomas, Rebecca, and 2 more of my siblings. Each had their own harrowing story of escape and survival. 2 were still missing, but for the first time in years, I had hope that I might find them all. We arranged to meet, 6 siblings who had fought their way back from hell. When I saw them, adults now with lives of their own, I broke down in tears. We had all survived. We had all found our way back to each other. That reunion was the beginning of healing for all of us. Together, we vowed to use our experiences to help other survivors. We started a foundation to support children rescued from trafficking situations and to help them reconnect with lost family members. The scars of our childhood will never fully fade, but they no longer define us. We define ourselves by what we've overcome and by the good we're putting back into the world. My parents sold us because they saw us as nothing more than a source of income. In the end, we proved them wrong. We are family, bound not just by blood, but by resilience, courage, and an unbreakable determination to make sure what happened to us never happens to another child. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment. One morning, about a month after our last confrontation, I walked out to the barn and found something strange. The cattle were acting nervous, moving in erratic patterns like they'd been spooked. I headed over to the water trough, and that's when I saw it. A pile of some strange powder scattered around the edge. It didn't take a genius to figure out what it was. I crouched down, scooping a bit of it into a bag to have it tested later, but I had a sinking feeling in my gut. Someone had tried to poison my herd. I called the vet immediately. Hi, my name is Steven, and I've lived on my farm for close to 15 years now. And until last spring, things were peaceful. It's the kind of life I always wanted. Quiet, steady work, and a sense of pride in knowing the land was mine. The house wasn't much, but it had enough room for me and my dogs, and the pastures stretched far enough to keep a small herd of cattle. My closest neighbor, Hank Reeves, had owned the farm next door since before I moved in. He kept to himself mostly, though I'd see him around town from time to time. We'd wave, maybe exchange a few words, but that was the extent of our relationship. That all changed when Mark Calder bought the place after Hank passed away. Mark was an odd sort of guy right from the start. He didn't come around to introduce himself like most folks would when moving to a new place. Instead, he kept his distance, always looking out over his land like he was sizing it up, figuring out what he could do with it. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone has their quirks, and being a little strange isn't a crime. But soon I realized Mark was more than just quirky. He was downright eccentric. It started small. He'd plow his fields at odd hours of the night, the sound of his tractor rumbling through the dark, waking me up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I told myself it wasn't worth worrying about. Everyone has their own way of doing things. But the real trouble began the day I found him standing on my side of the property line. I'd been out checking the fence that ran between our land, making sure it was holding up after a storm had passed through the night before. That's when I saw him, standing there with his hands on his hips, looking at the dirt. "Hey, Mark, everything all right? Your fence is a bit crooked." "Yeah, no. Crooked? It looks pretty straight to me." "It's very crooked. It's leaning a bit onto my side. If I were you, I would have it torn down and remade but put on your own property rather than mine. That fence has been there since I bought the place. It's on the property line. Maybe you didn't notice, but I think you're taking a bit more than your fair share. If I didn't know better, I would assume that you've been slowly moving the fence and slowly stealing some of my land from me." I was stunned. The idea that I was encroaching on his land was ridiculous. I'd had the property surveyed when I first moved in. I knew exactly where the property line was. I would never do that. Plus, you would have noticed me moving this fence. It's incredibly long. That fence is right where it's supposed to be. "You think so, huh? You saying that I'm crazy?" "Well, I happen to know that not only have you been slowly moving it and stealing my land, but that you have also stolen some of my cattle, too." "That is ludicrous. I would never do that." "Uh-huh. Sure you wouldn't. Well, you just watch your back there, bud." That was the first time I realized something was off about Mark. He wasn't just peculiar. He was looking for trouble. I walked away that day, thinking it was a one-time thing. I figured he was just trying to test his new neighbor, see if he could push me around a little. But it wasn't long before the real battle began. Over the next few weeks, I noticed small changes around the fence line. At first, it was just a few stakes moved a few inches into my side of the property. Then it was pieces of the fence itself that seemed to shift overnight, posts leaning in Mark's direction one day and towards me the next. I'd fix them, only to find them moved again a few days later. One morning, I found the wire fence cut clean through, a long strip of it lying on the ground like some invisible hand had sliced it during the night. Angrily, I marched over to Mark's house. When he opened the door, he looked at me with that same infuriatingly calm expression. "What can I do for you, neighbor?" "You can stop cutting my fence for starters. I know that you think that the fence is on your property, but we had the land surveyed, and the fence marks the border between our lands. Please stop moving it." "Cutting your fence? I don't know what you're talking about." Don't play dumb with me. That fence isn't moving on its own." "You're awful paranoid, friend. Maybe you ought to relax a little." That was it. I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere with him by talking, so I started documenting everything, taking pictures of the fence, marking the boundary line more clearly, even talking to the local sheriff, though they didn't seem too interested. Property disputes between farmers were common enough around these parts, and the sheriff wasn't eager to get involved unless things got out of hand. Little did I know, things were about to get much worse. One morning, about a month after our last confrontation, I walked out to the barn and found something strange. The cattle were acting nervous, moving in erratic patterns like they'd been spooked. I headed over to the water trough, and that's when I saw it. A pile of some strange powder scattered around the edge. It didn't take a genius to figure out what it was. I crouched down, scooping a bit of it into a bag to have it tested later, but I had a sinking feeling in my gut. Someone had tried to poison my herd. I called the vet immediately, and thankfully, none of the animals had gotten sick. But it was clear what had happened. Mark was escalating. First, it was the land, then the fence. And now, he was going after my livelihood. If he'd succeeded in poisoning the cattle, I'd be ruined. This wasn't just a nuisance anymore. It was war. I went straight to Mark's house and started pounding on his front door until he opened it, a sly grin on his face. Something on your mind, neighbor? You tried to poison my cattle. Mark, I get that you're upset about the fence, but we can settle this really easily by having someone come out and survey the land. Now, why would I do a thing like that? I mean, I guess if your cattle died, you would go broke and have to sell your land, but I can't imagine that that could happen. You use a well for your drinking water, right, Stephen? I stepped closer, my fists clenched at my sides. He was right. I did use a well, and I took his meaning that he could just as easily have poisoned it rather than the watering hole. He had just threatened to kill me, and over the location of a fence, no less. It was insane. You're playing a dangerous game, Mark. I'm warning you, stay off my land and stay away from me and my animals. You don't scare me, Stephen. You may think I'm a joke, but I'll show you. I'll make you regret ever looking down your nose at me. I wanted to hit him right then and there, but I knew that wasn't going to solve anything. Instead, I turned and walked away, my mind racing. If he wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. I had no idea what had given him the idea that I thought lesser of him, but he clearly wasn't going to change his mind. Over the next few days, I went online and spoke with some friends that worked for law enforcement, and with their help, I started digging into Mark's past. Turns out, he had a long history of trouble. Lawsuits, property disputes, even a restraining order or two from former neighbors. He was a grifter, always looking for the next place to cause trouble. Armed with this knowledge, I set my plan in motion. Late one night, after Mark had turned in for the evening, I crept onto his property. I wasn't going to damage anything, but I wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine. I moved a few fence posts, just enough to throw him off. I scattered some harmless powder around his barn, enough to make him think twice about poisoning my herd again. It was petty, but it felt good. I expected some kind of retaliation, but days passed without a word from Mark. Maybe he'd gotten the message. Maybe he'd back off now that he knew I wasn't going to take his crap lying down. I was wrong. One evening, everything came to a head. I was out in the barn, finishing up the last of my chores, when I heard a noise in the bushes just beyond the tree line. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, shining it towards the sound. That's when I saw him. Mark was crouched near the barn, holding something in his hand. A handgun. What the hell are you doing? You've crossed the line, Stephen. This is my land, and I'll be damned if I let you take it from me. I backed up, trying to put some distance between us. You're out of your mind, Mark. Put the gun down. But he didn't listen. I heard the crack of the handgun and saw a flash, but thankfully Mark was a terrible shot, and the bullet went wide and didn't hit me. He then started running towards me, trying to close the gap in between us to make his next shot an easier one. As he ran, Mark tripped on the uneven ground, stumbling forward. As he hit the ground, I heard the gun go off twice, and then Mark lay there on the ground still and not moving. I rushed over, my heart pounding in my chest. The handgun was under him with his hand still on the trigger. Rolling him onto his back, I saw that when he had tripped and fell, that his finger had pulled the trigger when he hit the ground, but the gun had been pointed at himself when he did. There were 2 holes in his chest, and blood was pouring freely from both of them. His eyes were wide with shock, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Mark, stay with me, I'll get help. But it was too late. His breathing slowed, and within moments, he was gone. I stood there for a few minutes before calling the sheriff. I didn't think they would believe me about what had happened, but after doing an extensive investigation, they ruled it as an accident and cleared me of any charges. Mark had been a pain in my side for months, but I never wanted it to end like this. I kept the farm, kept my animals safe, and for the first time in a long while, I could breathe easy again. The land, it seemed, had settled the score. The property next door was eventually sold, and I'm happy to say that the new owner is a much more level-headed person. It's been over 7 years, and we haven't so much as had a single disagreement yet, and I hope to keep it that way. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment. Their parents insisted they made her look strange. I watched as my brother and his wife showered Mia with love and attention while Ava remained mistreated and overlooked. One of the memories that comes to my mind is from a family gathering. We were all playing in the backyard, But as usual, Ava lagged behind because her limp was making it hard for her to keep up. I could see Mia trying to include her, pulling her along, but their parents were having none of it.
Come on, Mia. Why are you wasting your time with her? You should be making friends, not babysitting the imbecile.
Mia was sad, but she didn't abandon Ava. Instead, she continued helping her sister. As time went on, the differences in their treatment became more pronounced. Growing up, I had a front row seat to the complicated dynamics in my nieces' lives. Mia and Ava were identical twins, but their worlds could not have been more different. Mia, with her lively spirit, was perfect in the eyes of their parents, while Ava struggled under the weight of expectations and harsh criticisms. Ava had a limp from a birth defect that left one leg shorter than the other, and though her huge blue eyes were captivating, their parents insisted they made her look strange. I watched as my brother and his wife showered Mia with love and attention while Ava remained mistreated and overlooked. One of the memories that comes to my mind is from a family gathering. We were all playing in the backyard, but as usual, Ava lagged behind because her limp was making it hard for her to keep up. I could see Mia trying to include her, pulling her along, but their parents were having none of it.
Come on, Mia. Why are you wasting your time with her? You should be making friends, not babysitting the imbecile.
Mia was sad, but she didn't abandon Ava. Instead, she continued helping her sister. As time went on, the differences in their treatment became more pronounced. Mia excelled in everything she did: school, sports, friendships, while Ava felt like she was always being pulled down. I remember a time when they were invited to a talent show at school. Mia had prepared a dance performance, while Ava wanted to read a poem she had written. She wanted to go up with Ava.
Of course, Ava, I want you there with me.
What makes you think you can be up there? Just let Mia have her moment without dragging you along. I saw how disappointed Ava was, and that made me angry. I could also see Mia trying to fight back tears, torn between her sister and her parents' expectations. Another time, during a family dinner, we celebrated Mia's soccer championship win. Their parents lavished her with praise.
Mia, you were incredible. You've worked so hard and it shows. That's how a true child of mine behaved.
Our little superstar, we're so proud of you. We're so glad to have you. If we only had Ava as a child, it would have been so sad and boring. I looked at Ava and saw tears in her eyes.
But I got an A on my science project.
That's nice, Ava, but it's not the same. You should learn from Mia how to truly excel.
She tried to smile as she nodded, but I knew she was screaming within herself. I could just tell her heart was heavy. The favoritism continued to be evident, especially during holidays. One Christmas, their parents decided to decorate Mia's room with elaborate decorations, while Ava's remained untouched.
Can I help decorate my room too, please? I don't need much. Whatever you give to me is fine.
Ava, your room doesn't need all that. Just focus on Mia's. She's the one who deserves the spotlight.
What will you even do if we decorate your room? Limp around? How can we even let you decorate it yourself? You'll just fall and push more responsibilities on us. Forget it, Ava. You're not getting any decorations.
Later that week, I overheard their parents discussing Ava's future.
Honestly, I don't see how Ava will ever keep up with Mia. Maybe it's best if we just focus on Mia's life alone.
Exactly. We can't waste our time on someone who can't make it, no matter how hard we try. I felt so sad hearing that. I wanted to tell the twins, but I knew it would make them feel bad. They were already miserable. I didn't want to worsen the case. One day, at a family picnic, the twins were given the chance to showcase their baking skills. They were tasked with making cupcakes, and while Mia whipped up a colorful batch, Ava struggled to make her own. I watched as Ava worked diligently while Mia tried to encourage her.
I'm sure they'll taste good, Ava. Stop worrying about how they look.
Unfortunately, it wasn't the case.
Mia, these are delightful. You're going to be an amazing chef someday.
Mine is really good too, if you can give it a try. I promise they taste so good. Mia herself said it.
Ava, it's cute that you tried, but you know Mia is the one with the talent. Just stick to what you're good at.
She probably just deceived you. Mia is too nice for this world. She would never tell you those things you made her bad.
Ava looked so humiliated. I could see the hurt in her eyes. Mia looked like she wanted to cry, and I wanted to scream at their parents for their cruelty. In high school, the treatment escalated. Mia joined the cheerleading squad, her popularity soaring, while Ava remained on the fringes, struggling with anxiety and feelings of insecurity. After one of Mia's performances, her parents celebrated with her. "That's my girl. I always knew you were destined for greatness. Oh, how I wish you were my only child. You're the only one who makes me proud, darling."
Dad, I got an award as the best math student. What about that? Didn't it make you proud?
Oh, sweetie, that's nice and all, but it's not the same. Cheerleading is so much more impressive. Math award? That's so basic and boring.
One winter, we had a family ski trip, and while Mia was cheered on by their parents for her skills on the slopes, Ava was met with skepticism. "Are you sure you can keep up, Ava? I don't want you holding anyone back." Ava nodded, but I knew her confidence had been shattered, and they hadn't even stepped onto the slopes yet. When they did, I watched as Mia glided effortlessly down the hill, while Ava moved slowly and cautiously. When Ava fell, her parents laughed at her.
So lazy. Just get up, Ava. Mia would have bounced back by now. Stop being weak.
While Mia continued to receive praises from them, all Ava could do was struggle to keep up. Over the years, Ava's spirit was brought down by her parents' hurtful words, but Mia was always there for her. She would often sneak away to comfort Ava after their parents' cruel remarks.
You're amazing, Ava. Don't let them get to you. You have so much to offer. They're just being ridiculous comparing us. We're both better in our own fields. Don't let them make you forget that.
Mia's words were encouraging, but the constant comparisons and neglect took their toll on Ava. By the time their parents decided to move abroad, Ava felt utterly broken, battling depression and anxiety. Their parents had received a job offer abroad. "We're moving to a new city, and we're only taking Mia with us. Ava can remain here. We're not used to her anyway, and she definitely would be a burden if we take her."
No, you can't just take one of us. We're twins. How can you do this to us?
Please don't leave me. I'll do better, please. Mia will teach me how to be better.
You don't understand. Mia has a future ahead of her, and we can't have you being a bad influence on her. We can't have you being a liability to our child when she's just about to begin her life.
The heartless rejection left both girls feeling devastated and hopeless. Their parents packed their bags and left, abandoning Ava with me without a second thought. "Hey Sam, since you love kids and don't have any of your own, stay with this disabled Ava while we go work abroad for a while." It's true, I was never married and never had a child, but I adored kids. I took Ava in as my own daughter. Though she was sad, I encouraged her and cared for her deeply. After they left, Mia would call every week, sharing stories about her new life abroad.
I miss you so much, Ava. I wish you were here.
Despite the distance, the bond between the twins remained strong. They would talk about their dreams, their fears, and the unfairness of their situation. Ava, through the encouragement and kindness of her twin, worked hard and eventually became a medical doctor, proving her parents wrong in every possible way. While Mia started a cosmetic company. Years passed, and it was time for Ava to get married. Her husband was a kind and wealthy man who treated her with the love and respect she deserved. On the day of her wedding, Mia flew in from abroad to be her bridesmaid. The excitement was so contagious, and for once, Ava felt truly happy. But just as things seemed perfect, her parents showed up uninvited.
Ava, we're so sorry for coming late. How come no one told us?
It was so crazy how they were trying to act like everything was fine after everything they did to the twins.
No one told you both because no one wants you here. How dare you come uninvited?
Oh, sweet dear, forgive us. We were stupid. Now we see everything. Can you ever forgive us? Please forgive your parents.
My parents? You must be mistaken. You both ceased to be my family the day you abandoned me.
They tried to speak more, but Ava wasn't done with them.
I won't let you walk me down the aisle, Dad, if that's what you came for. Samson is gonna do it, and I'm honored.
What?
Yes. All those years you abandoned your duty as a father, he was there for me. You should emulate his behavior and turn a new leaf. He's the only one I consider a father. As for you, you're just someone I used to know.
Ava's parents were shocked by her boldness. True to her words, I walked her down the aisle while her parents sat in shame, watching another couple perform their duties. After the wedding, they tried to approach Ava again, hoping for a chance to apologize. But Mia, protective as always, stepped in front of her sister.
Let her be. Do you not have any idea how much you've hurt her?
We didn't mean it. We were just trying to do what was best.
Best for whom? Certainly not for Ava. You've always favored me and pushed her aside. How could you think that was okay?
Their parents looked shocked, unable to process Mia's outburst.
But she's our daughter too.
Not anymore. You lost that right when you chose to abandon her.
With that, Mia turned her back on them, standing firmly by Ava's side. Their parents shook their heads regretfully as they realized they had lost both their daughters. They left the wedding, defeated, and returned abroad, carrying their guilt with them. But karma had more in store for them. When they got back, their lives changed. They were both fired from their jobs due to poor performance. Someone had snitched on them for always charging customers extra and taking the profit, so they left the company with a tarnished reputation. The company made them pay every dime they stole, leaving them with nothing. They traveled back home. But when they tried to move back into the family house, they were met with cold shoulders from relatives who had witnessed their treatment of Ava. They ended up renting a small apartment and living with 3 dogs, their daughters refusing to acknowledge their existence. My brother later fell ill and passed away. Ava and Mia refused to attend the funeral, leaving their mother heartbroken. She still sends them letters from time to time, but receives no reply. As the years passed, my brother's wife grew old in her lonely home, haunted by memories of the daughter she had rejected. Meanwhile, Ava and Mia's bond grew stronger than ever. Every weekend, they come over to my house, and we catch up like one big family. I'm now like a father to them, and I am happily married with a daughter. Ava and Mia love my daughter so much and often spoil her with expensive gifts. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment below saying, "I subscribed," and we'll do our best to reply to your comment.